this place that we're at here. I'm in the Oxford House, and I met this brother he's a brother instantaneously. We go to this new church. Dude, supernatural things happen. It's crazy. I mean, people think you're crazy talking like that, but you can't fake that funk, bro.
I mean, there's stuff out there that you just, I mean, I want to get into all of that. So we were talking before your microphone got cut off or whatever. We were talking about how you took that first drink when you were a kid and you just immediately fell in love with it. So then how did the meth, did that start like in Boston, or had you moved?
No, we didn't even have meth in Boston. I never saw meth until I moved to Vegas when I was 19. I only dabbled with it. I was an everyday vodka drinker at 14 years old. I was drinking a half gallon every 2 days. I was an instant alcoholic. I'm 100% Irish. In Boston, drinking is a way of life.
Yeah.
Your parents partied. I touch on all that in this book, and I show how addiction grew in me. But I was an instant alcoholic, and I wanted it all the time. Then I dabbled in amphetamine pills like Ritalin and stuff like that. I fell in love with it back then, but kind of drifted off. I tried heroin, like every drug you can imagine. My high school that I went to, I lost probably, I think, 26 people from my high school class. We should have had a rehab center built on the back of my high school, Reading, Massachusetts. Good friends of mine. When heroin hit, I had moved to Vegas. The Lord veered me off because I know that I would not be alive today if I'd stayed around. I moved to Vegas. I started smoking a little bit of crack. I started doing methamphetamine out there for the first time. Then I moved home, and I slowed down. I got married, okay? And I was an alcoholic still, but I stopped all drugs for about 10 years. I ended up adopting a kid. I did sales in the millions of dollars in vacation rentals. I rented vacation homes to people. And I was a functioning alcoholic. I used to have dinner with the mayor, and I was keeping up with the Joneses. And I had a happy life, okay? And I got beaten a bad business deal. I never got in trouble at work for being late or drinking on the job, nothing like that. And when my marriage broke up, I fell to pieces. Like, I did not know how to deal with not waking up with my kids in the morning. So despair hit. And the devil knew right where to attack me. And I fell in with the wrong crowd when I moved to my dad's in Corpus. It was like I lived on an island in Corpus Christi, Texas. I moved off the island into the main city with my dad, and I started hanging out with these people, and it just kind of sucked me in methamphetamine. And I was on a mission, to be honest with you. I thought like premeditated. I'm going to kill myself with drugs. I've been an alcoholic for a long time, and I didn't want to live anymore. And I loved this new drug. And I just went head on. I mean, dove head on first. My career ended, and I was a businessman. And it was by no mistake the Lord pointed me in the direction. I was a cab driver at nighttime all of a sudden. And I became a cab driver. I started getting in with hustlers, pimps, drug dealers, prostitutes. I was living in the underbelly of Corpus Christi, Texas. Check cashing rings, criminals galore, whatever you can imagine I was getting into. Like, I was driving these people. I was a wheelman. Like, that's how I made a living in my drug addiction. Started dating drug girls. I just was knee deep in this, like, overnight. I'm an extreme person.
Yeah, and so you started, so like you moved to Texas, to Corpus Christi, and you start you start kind of being a cabbie right away, kind of thing.
Well, I was in Corpus when I was married. I moved here in 2004, and then I took a 10-year break from drugs, but continued to drink. And I was living on this island outside of Corpus Christi with my wife, and I had this career. And my dad lived in Corpus here. We had moved here because we inherited a house here in like 2004.
Okay.
And my dad was close, my brother. Everybody's in Texas at this point. I have this career. It ends. Then I moved to my dad's. And that's where it took a really bad turn. I was away from my wife and kids, and I got into meth. And the whole lifestyle of methamphetamine sucked me in. It wasn't just the drug. Number one thing that you have to realize about methamphetamine, anybody who's watching, it's not so much the drug, it's the lifestyle. And what I mean by that is, I believe I've seen the face of the devil through that drug. I remember sitting in my room at one point, and I was knowingly conjuring spirits. Swear to God, there's a sexual demon that comes with it. I ended up as soon as I started the methamphetamines and living that life in the street like that, I was driving big drug dealers. I was a chauffeur for drug dealers, big ones, and that's how I made my living. I mean, I'm talking like sometimes it'd be a little bit of drugs. Sometimes it would be a duffel bag full of meth. That's a life sentence.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who would not let you in my car if you had a roach of weed in your pocket at one point.
Yeah,
And then
because
all
you're
of a
talking
sudden, when it
about you
hits
got to
me,
keep the you're walking this line, having to
yeah,
drive, and you're getting pulled over, right?
yeah,
You're getting pulled over sometimes, and it's got to be you got to be on point, or other like you said, they find that duffel bag of meth, you're going away for life, no questions asked.
yeah. And you're riding around. I'm a white guy who looks like a cop, and I'm riding around with a guy with covered from head to toe in tattoos, and he's a Mexican dude, just different ethnicity than I am. And in the States here, in South Texas, racism's huge. So like they would hire me because I had a new car. They would hire me because I was white. And I'm an addict. I'm a master manipulator. I talked my way out of so many traffic stops, like 3 or 4 big traffic stops where I could have done life in prison.
And like you said, you're pretty clean cut, and like
Yep.
you look like you're fresh out of. You even say that you kind of look like you're fresh out of the
Fresh out of the
academy.
academy. Yeah, and that almost got me killed later on because there was a rumor that I was an informant, that I was a police officer. Like I've had green lights put on me by big gangs. I mean, I lived this crazy, crazy life. I was a full-blown sex addict, full-blown pornography addict. I mean, anything you can imagine. I was living with the devil at that point. It's the lifestyle.
And yeah, man, that's what's interesting. You talk about it starts out you're just kind of doing some rails of meth.
Yeah.
It's not full time all day every day, but you start to kind of seep into it's almost like an underworld. You know what I mean? It's like this meth underworld. We got all these characters living outside of the law, like you said. Like you got all kinds of, and it's some pretty, like you said, it's some pretty dark areas and there's some stuff in there that'll make and for sure, man, it's
if the general public knew, if they could see what I saw, and that's what this book's gonna show. And I don't name any names. I don't use any names. Yeah. I still live in this city. I got a lot of friends still in the game, and the reason why I keep in contact with them is because I'm baptized in the water, so later on I can go back into hell and pull people from the flames. That's my goal with the book. I'm somebody who will walk into a trap house and pull somebody out who wants recovery. I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna take people out of that world. If the book ever does well, I'm going to make a movie, number one, about the book, and I'm going to show exactly the way it is to live in this lifestyle. And if the general public ever knew what I saw, and they will soon, their skin would crawl. They would pack up and move out of where they're living. Every apartment complex in this city that I'm in, every single one, there's check cashing rings. There is thieves identity thieves that go. Their whole job is to steal your mail. They have kids that they employ to go out and steal the mail out of mailboxes. I mean, it gets that. There's boosters. I used to drive them too, where a drug dealer would give them a laundry list of clothes or perfume, whatever they wanted from JCPenney, and I would drive these people to the store, and they would boost it all, and then we'd bring it to the drug dealer, and they would trade for drugs, and then I'd get a chunk. That's the way it works. There's a whole underbelly in every city in the United States, and now it's spreading across the world, and people have no idea what walk amongst them. And it's scary.
It's hard to, I think it's hard to describe it as anything else. And I've heard this said before by, there's a guy on YouTube, CG Kid, and he says the exact same thing. Like meth is it's like the gateway to evil. You know what I mean? And you talk about that in your excerpt. It's like Ice Game 101. You talk about like, you can't have anything. The drugs become everything. There's no love. And there's no sleep in the ice game, in the meth game.
No, I mean I started staying up periods in time at minimum 4 days. I was high on meth for 740 days straight without a day off. The only time I slept was when I was so exhausted my body shut down, or if I took Xanax. And I was finding myself in the cab. Things are progressing. I got this beautiful girlfriend. Today she's the love of my life, and we're not together anymore, but our addiction, we were in there together. It just ruins every facet of your whole life. You cannot be on love in a loving relationship if you're on methamphetamine. It takes parts of you, your honesty. The only thing that's more powerful than love in this world is dope, and it's because it's right from the devil. And it ruined everything around me. I was finding myself falling asleep behind the wheel of the taxi a lot, doing 80 miles an hour, waking up like Jesus slapped me in the back of the head. and I'd wake up taking a turn to go up the Harbor Bridge, and I'd take the turn at 60 miles an hour. And it was just
you ended up, and that's like another miracle thing where you fall asleep at the wheel and actually end up crashing your taxi.
Yeah. Let's just back it up 1 week before then so the miracle can shine through with the Lord's grace, okay? The week before that, I'm at North Beach. It's a different section of Corpus. I'm at a motel, and I'm with this pregnant drug dealer. She's still a good friend of mine. And she walked up the stairs pregnant, and I helped her with her luggage, and I go up the stairs. On the way up, I see a drug dealer. I always called this guy every time I went to this section of town. And I say, hey, I'm coming over the bridge. I'm going to stop by. And I go score, whatever, just go see him. I didn't this night because I was just on business, and I'm about to leave. And I walk up, I see her, she mumbles something, didn't pay it no mind. I'm coming down the stairs on the exterior staircase, and here he comes up. And he pulls a loaded .357 Magnum out of his pocket. Bullets are jangling all over the stairs. He cocks the hammer back, and he puts it right in my eye. And he's shaking like a leaf. He was so high, I thought he was going to shoot me by accident. And what happened was his wife was on the second floor having an affair. And he saw me, and I didn't call him. So he thought that I was there having an affair with his wife because I was a familiar face.
Jesus.
And by the grace of God, I mean, he's sitting there screaming at me, Boston, I'm going to kill you, man. You better not be with my wife, blah, blah, blah. He's swearing. And a guy opens the door, and it's 3:30 in the morning. The guy goes, hey, what are you guys doing? It's 3:30 in the morning. And the kid drops his gun, and he looks over, and then it kind of like broke the murderous spirit that was in him for just a second. And I said, hey, man, I don't know what I did, but I'm not here for that. And he took me at gunpoint up the stairs, and we verified that I was there on different business, and it was all good. He ended up finding his wife later. But the next night, this is where the miracle of that story is. The next night, I'm watching the news, and he shoots two people on Baldwin Avenue, which is right down the street. He shoots them, and he's doing 12 years in penitentiary for that. And he shot him with the same gun that he had in my eye socket. He had the spirit of murder in him through that drug, and he was going to kill somebody. He ended up not killing the people, but he got 12 years. I was locked up with him. It's all very verifiable. I'll take a polygraph test to anything in my book. Then the next week happens. I'm in my cab, the accident. I'm in my cab. This is the one that changed my whole life. I'm doing 70 miles an hour. I'm trying to hurry up so I can get through these three things. I'm on 70 miles an hour. I'm driving. I pass out behind the wheel like 3 times. People are honking their horns. I've got meth in my cigarette pack in my cab bag. It's a bank bag. Kept all my money and everything in. And it's sitting beside me. I had weed in my pocket. It was my girlfriend's, and I don't smoke weed, but she was getting lazy on me. So I grabbed it off the counter and stuck it in my sock. I'm driving down the highway. I fall asleep. I fly off I hit the curb. It's a big curb. I smash into the curb. I'm airborne, doing 70 miles an hour. I looked at the speedometer. I flew like 30 feet down and hit the ground onto the access road that runs parallel. And I'm sliding towards a humongous concrete post with a big sign on the top. And I was doing illegal activity all night in this cab. Hookers, drug dealers talking about drugs openly, and this is all on camera. Remember this later in the story. Camera pointed right in my face, and it's got audio, okay? It's very important for later on. So I'm about to hit this pole, and I see 3 flashes, and this event changed my life forever. And the first flash was I thought of my children, thought of my youngest daughter, her face. The second flash was I said, oh, shit, that's concrete, and I knew what it was. And then the third one, I accepted my death, and I got right with the Lord real quick. This is all in a fraction of a second, just like it is in the movies.
Yeah.
That's an accident that they portray it like that. And I swear to you, and I would polygraph on this, anything in the book, like I said a million times. I felt angels, and I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, but it was just the impression of them. And they grabbed my shirt like this, and I just felt something do that. And I only lifted out the seat. I felt like I did, like a half an inch. And I hit that pole at 70 miles an hour, or a little bit under, because I'm skidding on the road. And I saw a white impact of light as my eyes were open. I hit the pole that hard. Humongous sign falls on top of the cab. The car's on fire. The engine's in the passenger seat with me. My foot's trapped underneath the seat. It's an old cop car. It's Crown Victoria, old police car in the United States. And they converted it into a cab. And it's super reinforced. And it's for a police officer designed to get into an accident. It's the only reason why I lived. And I had the seatbelt on. I saw it, all 5 ribs completely in half. 2 weeks later, I went to the hospital, and I couldn't breathe. The guy's like, I don't even know how you're walking around. He goes, your ribs aren't even touching. And what happened was I ripped my foot off from the seat. I got out. I started walking around, and I passed out from shock. The cops found a weed in my pocket, and I said, "Hey, bro," I said, "you ain't gonna find that in my blood, homeboy." And he goes, he took it, bit it with his teeth, and he threw the cop threw the weed in the bushes. I didn't even get a speeding ticket. The cab company was so politically connected. That was part of the reason why the underworld employed me, was because the cab companies are so politically connected. The police will not pull you over. They want no bad press. So I was untouchable.
Really?
Yes, I was untouchable. I could fly by the cops with a duffel bag full of meth doing 55 and a 30. They wouldn't even crack their newspaper to look up.
Wow.
And that's how I got away with murder. I used to do tons of things. But the real miracle in that story is I found out that the Lord was real because of the accident, the presence of the angels. But to jump forward just a little bit, about 6 months later, I employ a cab to come get me for unrelated stuff. I stopped driving after this, and the guy, it just comes up, I was the guy who crashed this taxi, okay? I'm on film all night, my whole shift, and I'm like, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. They're going to find all that tape of me doing illegal stuff. No one ever said anything. No one ever came to visit me. The cops never came. The guy goes, "You're the guy who crashed that Crown Vic, man?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did you hear what happened?" And I said, "No." Because they pulled the tapes for the accident. Snow white.
Like it just buzzed out.
Buzzed out. No record of my whole shift from front to back. The guys before mine worked, but not mine.
Wow.
And it was just, and that's a true story. I will polygraph test on that. And then the week after the accident, I'm having reoccurring thoughts, just to put this out there. And this changed my life forever, and I still don't know the meanings of it totally, but I had reoccurring thoughts. I thought I was going insane. It was the big event, the big event, the big event. It's all I could think about. And then days following that was find the others. It was a spiritual awakening that night, what I went through. Changed my life forever. And then the week after, I got drunk, and I'm up 4 days again. I hit the curb on the Harbor Bridge coming down, and I was doing 80 miles an hour, and I was in a tuna can, this little car. It was brand new, and it was like $15 to fill the tank. It was a great car to deliver drugs.
It was a little Nissan or something, wasn't it?
A little Mitsubishi Mirage. Shout out
Right.
to Mitsubishi. That car was legendary in the town. And I shredded the tire. It felt like I hit the whole side of the car against the side rail on the bridge. So I drive 12.5 miles to my dad's house where I live. It was my grandparents' old house, and I pull up in the driveway. I take my cell phone, and I go to look at the side of the car with the light. Nothing's wrong with it. I look down. The tire's shredded. It's got radio popping out of it. And I swear to you, I drove 12 and a half miles, and that tire deflated in the driveway.
Wow.
That car would have flipped over. I'd be dead. I would have been dead. That's 3 times in 3 weeks the Lord spared my life. Undeniable confirmation that I should have been dead. I shouldn't have made it through any one of those. And, it was just, it started a spiritual journey for me, that awakening. And I got higher than I've ever been for a year after that. And I went into what's called methamphetamine psychosis. Are you familiar with what that is?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of friends in the program that, their drug of choice was meth. And even after they had gotten clean and stopped doing meth, they had full-on psychosis. They got demons chasing them, and it's, man. I know a little bit about it, but I mean, like you said, that kind of started for you when...
It was about 6 months before I quit drugs is when it started happening. Because I was doing an 8-ball a day. That's 3.5 grams of good meth a day.
Of crystal meth.
Yeah, I was shooting it, smoking it, snorting it. I was shoving it in my rectum. I was doing any way you could get it in your body, I was doing it. And I talk about all that. I'm not ashamed of any of it. That's the way it happened. And I talk about addiction, the ugly, murderous way it happens. And I don't leave anything out.
No, you get the straight goods, and that's what I think it's going, and I think that's the way that you have to share nowadays to get the message out there. You know what I mean? Warn people.
People don't want to hear about the solution or the Lord or anything off the bat, especially in my country, in America. We idolize murder, violence, sex, and drugs. And my story has a lot of those things. But if I'm naked in my truth, you can be clothed in recovery. It's a big saying for me now. I exposed myself. The Lord told me I needed to do that. And he lifted the shame for me, all the things I've done. I was a complete sex addict, too. And I had sex with 32 women with no protection in 1 year. I was living the whole lifestyle almost killed me.
And that's the thing. I mean, I wanted to get into that is like you're talking about the lifestyle and the way that the drug just brings out. I mean, do you think that in your experience, do you think there's people that are just straight up born evil, or do you think that just certain situations and obviously certain drugs like just bring out the evil in people? Because you talk, yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
you talk about obviously some of the stuff in your stories. You're talking about stuff going on in trap houses. That, I mean, how else would you describe that? As like, somebody being doped up and used as a gangsters, doping young women up and having them be sex slaves. I mean, and you talk about, I mean, all of these gangsters and drug dealers. They're scary people, man. And you even talk about it's interesting though that you got to see a side of them. Like, at the end of the day, they're still human beings with feelings, but they've just been so entrenched in this world of drugs, and it's like the evil's just taking them over. The evil of drug use.
If people want the real deal Holyfield on good and evil, I'll give it to you like this, and I've got experience with it. And I saw the drug world, and I saw good people channeling demons through drugs. That happens. Okay, that's the most common thing. And where crystal meth's a very spiritual drug. It's no mistake that the most evil standing army on the face of the planet, the Nazis, were given meth, crystal meth in pill form, almost like a vitamin in the morning. The Japanese invented it, Hitler perfected it, and he dished it out. That's how these atrocities happen. They were channeling evil. Okay, I believe that meth it channels some demons that are very unique. Sexual demons are the big one. It fuels the pornography industry. If you watch pornography movies, like I was a porn addict, if you watch pornography movies, you can see the face of people who are on it. And it's a very similar face, the tongue movements, the facial expressions, the things they say. It's the same spirit, I believe, possessing a lot of different souls in people. So you got good people who channel evil through the drug, and it's because of addiction. They start using drugs to have fun, and then it becomes what the devil really intended it to, is it's a gateway to evil. But then I went to this. Let me get into this. I had enough. I was in meth psychosis. I'm on a huge spiritual journey, and I'll touch back on this, and it'll make sense. I'm in meth psychosis. My dad's dying of cancer. If you read Pins and Needles, like I was using needles and disgusting things happening. My dad's dying in the room. So I know I'm crazy. I'm going in and out of the local mental hospital, getting kicked out every 3 days. They just don't hold you in the States here. It's the broken mental system. And I'm seeing shapes in the clouds at this point. I'm talking to the TV, but I'm also going downtown and I'm living with homeless. I'm having these spiritual experiences. Like I had epiphanies where God is love, love is life. And God gave love between human beings to show us tangible evidence of his existence. So when you hold a baby, or if you kiss your significant other, or you hug a friend you haven't seen in 20 years, that was shown to be that's God there with you. And he's holding you in his arms. He's giving you a gift to show you his love. And that's what it feels like, is God is love. So I learned things like that about racism, about how, and these are epiphanies. Like I'm walking down the street high as hell, and I've got a do-rag on. And I'm walking down the street with a bag lady, and I'm having these spiritual moments. And it's while I'm crazy. God uses the mentally ill to channel messages, just like the devil does. And we write those people off. But listen to mentally ill people and try to listen to them, because you will pick up spiritual messages, I guarantee you. And I went to a mental institution. I'll touch on that in a minute. And it all ties in together. So I know I'm sick. I'm sitting there with a knife. I think I'm in a movie. Big shout out to Canada's own Jim Carrey. Okay, I thought I was in a movie called The Truman Show.
You're
reboot.
on The Truman Show. It's the Boston Durkin show.
The Boston Durkin show. I thought I was in the reboot based around my life, being filmed by satellites, by DirecTV and DishNet. I thought that they could hear me and see me. I thought there was hidden cameras in my house. I thought everyone around me was in this movie. Okay, so I'm very sick, and parts of me knows that I'm very sick. Okay, I'm in there with a knife to my main artery, telling my dad, I know you're in on it. I know you're in on this movie. And he's in a wheelchair, can't get up, can't
dying of cancer.
Yeah, and he had spinal cancer. It was like overnight he was paralyzed. Now I'm his caretaker at this point. I'm bathing him, changing him, digging real deep, watching my best friend and my dad die. Not all addicts are bad people. We have a big heart, and that'll shine through, because that's the difference between good people using drugs and channeling evil, and then later on we'll get into what evil people are. But I got turned away from rehab twice. The United States, The rehabilitational system is absolutely broken. There's no funding. The second time I cry to this lady and I say, something bad's going to happen to me. So don't let me go. And she threw me out the front door at this place called Charlie's. And I went back home for about 2 weeks, got really high the whole time. And I find out my dad's dead. He went to hospice. My brother doesn't come by the house to tell me. He's been dead for 3 weeks. And I called my brother. He goes, Dad's dead. I've been up for 7 days. I went home and I went to the house. I had a 4-bedroom house in the Country Club Estates in Corpus. Every window was smashed out. I called it Trap House in the Country Club. I had millions of drug addicts just streaming in and out of my grandparents' house.
Jesus.
And the cops come and board up my house, and I'm living in it. There's no electricity. There's no running water. I'm defecating in a toilet over and over again. Okay, this is where my addiction took me. There's flies. I wake up I passed out for 4 hours. And I wake up, it's 110 degrees. I'm covered in blood from self-inflicted knife wounds. I wake up because I'm crazy. I wake up and I see the knife. It's a big rusty butcher knife. And I wake up and I look at the knife and the Holy Spirit took a hold of me. The end of the journey had come for that part of it, the drug part. And I looked at the knife, I picked it up, and I said out loud, I said, this stops now. And I took the knife, I walked outside, I went around, I threw a TV that I had thrown through the window into my neighbor's yard. So they called the cops saying I was breaking in, but I really didn't. And that's in my arrest YouTube. You can look me up, Patrick Durkin, Corpus Christi.
No, I want to put that out there. Like, you share the news stories to kind of corroborate what you're saying. Like, this is no
behind any of this.
No fairy tale.
I have pictures of the accident. You've seen the accident photos.
Yeah.
Dude, the other thing, let me go back to this for briefly. That accident photo, I took it a week after it happened. I became obsessed with it when I was having the big event and find the others, the spiritual part of it. I look at this photo, okay? I fell asleep. I zoom in on this part and anybody can look at the story, Angels and Signs, that's on my page. And the picture's there. You can zoom in. I fell asleep and I crashed into the sign for the Christian Sleep Study Center. If God doesn't have a sense of humor, I don't know who does. Yeah. And then I Googled the numbers that were on the sign, the huge numbers on the sign, 4455 SPID. That was the address. Pertaining to angels, which I felt the presence of the accident. Those numbers mean a warning to change your life, imminent death or danger, and loss of freedom, which will later tie in. So I grabbed this knife. I walked to McDonald's, and I walked in. There was 4 employees. There was a family with a 16-year-old daughter, I think. She was around that age. They're at a table. The employees are 30 feet from me. I walk in the door. I said, this is not a – can I swear on the show or no?
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right. Oh, I'm not even going to say it. I won't do it for the Lord. But I walked in and I said, this is not a robbery. I had the knife in my hand. I said, this is not a robbery. Everybody get the F out of here.
Yeah.
And the employees ran, the family ran, and I'm in the restaurant alone. I put the knife down. I walked over to this table where the family was. He left an envelope. This is all on tape. My lawyer's got the DVDs. And I picked the envelope up. I didn't open it, but I'll never forget this as long as I live. I swear it was money. I didn't open it, but it was like this thick. And it said Mr. Lopez on it. I walked outside with no knife. And I said, hey, Mr. Lopez. He's like, oh, he gets all scared.
Yeah.
And I said, I think this is yours. And I go, you left that there. And I handed it to him. And I walked back in the restaurant. This is a guy about to do an armed robbery, by the way. So I walked in. I walked behind the counter. I grabbed a quarter pounder. Didn't even have cheese on it, okay? And I took it. I sat down. I took one bite of it, and I threw it on the table. And I waited for the police. And when they got there, I went peacefully. Somebody had called in shots fired, like it was a mass shooter like we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
Someone called it in as that. When that guy came in, he cocked that 12 gauge, and he says, I'm going to kill you, MF. And I was on the ground already, sprawled out. I go, I am not armed. I am not armed. No shirt, just covered in sweat and blood. And I was just done. No running water and whatnot. And that was the day I took my life back. The Lord, I had to take the system into my own hands. That's the sad part. The book is going to deal with that in showing that in the richest country on planet Earth, if you want help, you should be able to walk into a treatment center as long as you don't abuse the system over and over. And you should be able to ask for help and get it. I would never have committed that crime, which I scared some folks and I took a $3 burger. Okay? And if I had gotten the help I needed, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. It's the Lord's plan, but part of this journey is to show the broken treatment center system in the United States.
Absolutely. I think that's something that needs to get exposed, man. And so basically you did this and you had to end up in jail to get clean off of meth.
Yeah. And I go into jail, and I'll just abridge the story, but there's some really cool things. I'm crazy. I go to jail. I think the cameras are filming me for the movie, so I'm performing, doing stand-up comedy in the pod with a bunch of gang members, thinking they're actors that were cast in Hollywood somewhere. So I'm doing all this, and they hit me with the charges, man. For that crime, I don't know if you know the severity of it in your law system up there, but here it was called an aggravated robbery because it had a weapon. That carries a penalty of 5 to 99. It's a first-degree felony, and it's up there with only murder and rape.
Yeah, I mean, they throw out football numbers in the States for violent crimes or violent stuff in commission of a crimes, I think is what they call it. But yeah, man, you're not doing you probably, the likelihood is you're not going there for a year or two. I mean, that's it. They can wash you up and put you away forever based on one event like that.
They come at me with that, and then 3 aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon. I was 30 feet from the closest person. I've never been in trouble I had a misdemeanor assault case years ago, and it was just because I took the plea deal. I should have fought that, but I'm not a violent person. First felony arrest ever in my whole life. First felony arrest ever. I never got caught with drugs. I was really blessed. I drove every day, all day. It was just the Lord protecting me. But they hit me with like 140 years stacked.
Wow.
Okay. Fast forward through all this. I'm in solitary confinement. I'm in there with just me, my Bible, and the Lord. And my craziness starts to fade. Like 8 months in, I snap out. I went to bed crazy. I woke up completely healed. And I was in my cell in solitary confinement because I was crazy. They separate you. And I've been in there for months. 3 months I did in that situation. Just an 8x10. They let you out to shower and put you right back in like an animal. They feed you, and that's it. I was in there with just me, the Lord, and my Bible. And I had a relationship with God now. I'm getting in the Word. I was in there preaching before I read the Bible. 2 preachers that would come in who were giving us sermons on honey-tongued women and how guys in our situation should stay away from them to lead us to the devil. And I stood up when this one guy was talking, and I said, "Sir," I said, "shouldn't we lift her up?" And he said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "What do you mean, should we lift her up?" This is a preacher in jail. They're hissing at me. The inmates are pissed. I'm wearing a full mohawk spiked up with soap. I was crazy.
Okay.
But I'm talking to this guy, and I said, as men of Christ, shouldn't we find out what's causing her underlying issues to where she's being sexually promiscuous and why she doesn't love herself? And shouldn't we as men of Christ lead her to the Lord and help fix her? And he looked at me, and he looked around to all the inmates, and he goes, he's right. And I was preaching things in the Bible without quoting scripture because it came right from the Spirit. Before I went to jail, and even after I went to jail for the months leading up, I was getting drunk in the Spirit. And you can chalk that up to drug use, meth, psychosis, whatever you want. But I would get drunk, dizzy, sick to my stomach. I would throw up. And I would give messages to people. And I had epiphanies about God's design for us. And those things stuck with me to this day, made me the best person I've ever been. I'm not a racist anymore. I used to not like black people. I know what God's love really is and the love of Jesus Christ. And I learned that through this crazy mental experience I had. And it all stuck with me to this day. It changed the fibers of my DNA. And I found the Lord when I was in jail. And then I go to trial, man. And they come at me the day before trial. I call my attorney. I said, "Hey, Ken." Number one, I get one of the top 2 pay attorneys in Corpus Christi, Texas, as my public defender months before.
Wow.
God put him in my life. I mean, this guy looks like Martin Scorsese, the director who did Goodfellas.
Yeah.
I mean, I met him. I thought he was part of the movie. I'm like, there's no way. I got this guy's an actor. And I'm talking to my lawyer. That's where it came from. I was telling him about the movie, and he goes, "This guy's crazy." So he's going for the insanity defense, right? And I don't even want to go along with this because I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm like, what? And I go, whatever, man. I go, do whatever you want. Because I'm thinking the movie's going to control the outcome. It's not even a real trial. That's how crazy I was. But now we're getting a trial. I'm now sane. Sorry to jump around, but I wanted to give you a backstory on that guy because that was a blessing. So I go to trial, and the day before I call him, and I said, "What, we get probation, man?" I go, "Nobody got hurt. I didn't take any money. my first felony offense ever. And in the States, you can usually get away with 2 big arrests before you go to prison.
Right.
You know, especially if you got a lawyer like him. He was a bad dude. Mean motor scooter in the courtroom. And he told me on the phone, he goes, Patrick, he goes, they're coming at us with 15 years TDC, Texas Department of Correction.
Wow.
And I don't know if you in Canada have heard about TDC. It is no joke down here. It's 108 degrees, no air conditioning, very violent, prison gangs up the wazoo. Like, I would have to join the Aryan Brotherhood if I went, or else I would have become fish food. And I mean, like, you're looking at a life in hell, okay?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to trial the next morning, and I'm walking to trial in my orange jumpsuit, in shackles, in chains, like an apostle, okay? And I'm walking through there, and there's a tunnel underground that leads from the jail into the courtroom, into the courthouse, and it's underground, and there's leaky pipes, and it's really dark, and I'm walking through with the shackles, and I see something up in the distance, and I'm thinking I'm marching to my death, basically. I'm on an ag charge, you do 12 and a half years on a 15 because it's 85% of your time.
Right.
And I'm walking through the tunnel, and I see something in the distance. This is why my life's a movie, okay? And I look, and I come up upon it. It's the same make, the same model, same color wheelchair as my dad had right before he died. And I knew right then and there, it was a powerful moment in my testimony. I knew everything was going to be okay, and I knew Jesus was with me. I knew my dad was with me. And I went upstairs, and I beat that case on insanity. Last minute, they switched DAs. The night before, my lawyer goes and sees the new DA who took the case that day, and he pushed the insanity defense through, drug history and all. The doctor went for it. The judge went for it. Everyone knows the law. I was open with my methamphetamine use. It's all on record in the files. And it was like God blinded them for just a moment, pushed that case through, and they signed it into law. And when you get found not guilty by reason of insanity in the state of Texas, so I acknowledge that I did this armed robbery. I had to admit to that. But they said I was so crazy at the time of the crime that they chalked me up as having bipolar. And that's what their reasoning for sending me to the mental hospital was. You have to go for a safety evaluation in order to be, you're found not guilty. I don't have a felony record. But in order to be released into society, I had to go through this evaluation. So legally, the state's not on the hook if I reoffend.
Right.
Okay. So I go and I get off, and then I'm off to a mental institution for the criminally insane. I had a weapon in the crime. I had to go to Vernon State Hospital outside of Wichita Falls, Texas. It's like a prison. You pull up, gates a mile high, barbed wire fences, and I'm in there with the meanest people in Texas, murderers, child rapists, just everything, anything bad, armed robbers, anything you can imagine who are mentally ill.
Yes.
All right, in the hospital. It's the belly of the beast. And this is where I get into evil versus drug addict. Big win for the squad, God squad. I went there, and there's no drugs there, okay? Take drugs out. And you start seeing people at their rawest form. Now, I'm a drug addict, and I've done a lot of things. I never hurt anybody. But I did a lot of really foul shit, you know? I did.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I was going to talk about that. Like, there are different demons that you're talking about, different, energies or whatever that meth channels. Because one of them is, and this is what I've heard, is that a lot of people who do meth become violent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like you were ever a violent guy at any point.
No, and in the drug world, bro, I can't honestly remember a story besides the gun, but that was a murderous spirit. And it was a jealousy spirit because it involved his woman, and he loved her. And there was a lot that factored in. But I've never seen anybody pop off and just start hurting people on meth. It's really a more spiritual experience of good and evil. And it summons sexual demons terribly. There's things that no one talks about. And they're so ashamed to talk about what they do in their sex life on this drug. It's an unsaid thing. I mean, orgies and just there's people doing homosexual things. And there's all sorts of things people don't talk about. It's channeling those demons. And part of the demons hold on you is after. And it's the fact that people don't talk about it. And that's what keeps people in their addiction is keeping the secrets in. And that's why I don't do that today. I put everything into the light so that others will have the strength and courage to come forward about their addiction and start talking about it and get treatment for it.
Yeah, but I mean, even on the streets, you're dealing with people. I mean, I don't know how else you would describe them as channeling some kind of evil through them. I
Yeah.
mean, the one that you were talking about, there was one dealer. I think she was an Asian woman, and you said that was the scariest person you had ever encountered of all the dealers.
Yeah. I ended up dating her briefly.
Oh yeah.
She was. I mean, she was somebody, and I have much respect for her. But she was somebody who get you handled in one phone call, bro. I mean, make you disappear. She would kick door on. You know what a kick door is? When somebody they kick your door to your apartment and they come in and take whatever they want and they rob you. She used to go kick doors. This is a female. She would kick doors at a hardened gang member, like from I'm not going to say the name of their gang, but they're Mexicans. And she would kick the door of this place. She'd come in and take what you owed her, and then she'd take all your furniture and anything else she wanted, and nothing would happen to this lady. And I used to be her exclusive driver. You know, big shout out to Chevelle was what we'll call her.
All right. But I mean, but like you said, there's some people. There's no love in this street life, in this drug life, and you got people that are doing, violent acts with no regard for anybody's well-being or any of that shit, even on the street. And then
There's
go
angels
into
and demons, bro. That's where I was going next. The mental hospital showed me. I mean, there's angels and demons. There's good and evil in the world. Some people are just born to do the devil's work. That's the difference. Drug addicts who steal and stuff like that to get drugs.
Yeah, I mean, that's not
different level stuff. But then I meet there was one guy. I fought this guy. I called him a demon to his face, and I ended his little reign of terror at the hospital at one point. You run into a 69-year-old man who's raped 3 women, been convicted, raped a man in prison, straight rapist. Online, I looked him up when he was molesting people that had minds of a 12-year-old in the shower, bribing them for sodas. This is who I'm living with now, okay?
In the criminally insane mental hospital.
Criminally insane mental hospital, and he would take. You could get soda in there. It's like a drug. It's the closest thing. And he would say, "Come in the shower with me and give me oral sex," to these guys who have the brain of an 8 or 9-year-old kid. And they would go in and do it. He had 2 guys in the shower the last time that it happened. One of the kids has HIV, and he's spreading it to himself and others. And he's just molesting people constantly. That's somebody who was born a demon. He looked at me, and I had my phone. I was the first person in the mental institution to have a smartphone. That's how I started writing the book. Was in that mental institution. And it was actually at San Antonio State Hospital where this molester was at. I got moved to it. I got downgraded. Now they got this guy who's a habitual demon rapist, and I looked him up online. The doctors in prison said he had a rape disorder. He thinks about violent sexual fantasies literally every moment he's awake, is what the doctor's quote was. This is a medical professional. They have this guy around mentally disabled people, and he's raping them, basically molesting them in showers. And the hospital covered it up. And the hospital didn't call the families. They didn't call APS. They didn't do sexually transmitted disease testing. They just acted like it didn't happen. And then your boy here got a hold of that. And I called the dudes. I called the victims' families. I was the only person in the whole place who had a smartphone at one time. I read the client's rights handbook. I'm completely sane in this situation. And I started writing my book, and the spirit flowed, and I started writing stories. And the only way the book came about because the only way that I could document my writing, I didn't have a printer. I didn't have a computer. I had to use Facebook out of necessity. And I wrote the framework for the book. I'm rewriting it now. But people are just steal your writing and whatnot. I go, I'm okay. I'm rewriting it. It's all time-stamped, and the story's mine, and the Lord's protecting me anyway. But I had to use Facebook, and that's how the Christian magazine found me and did the story about me while I was in the mental institution. It comes out August 2020. They're called Inspiration Ministries. Biggest Christian magazine on planet Earth found me as I posted one of my writings by chance on their site. In the comment section, I posted needles and pins, and or angels and signs. I'm sorry, and they saw that, and they did a story about me linking the website when I make one. I'm still writing the book, but that's what started happening. But I mean, I was in this mental hospital. That's the difference when you see the face of evil. Take drugs out of it, and look at the people. I looked at that man. He said, I didn't do that. I'm a preacher. I used to be a preacher. I said, if you were a preacher, the only reason that you preached was so you could take advantage of young kids and molest them. And I said, not on my watch, demon, right to his face. That's an evil person.
Yeah,
there's drug addicts who do things.
Would you? I mean,
And
it seems like I don't know how people can try. I mean, people try and chalk it up to moral relative. I mean, it's pretty clear
yeah,
that there's good and evil, and evil is just doing sick and hurtful things to others, or being indifferent to to those things. Like you said with the hospital, just being completely indifferent to the kind of horrors that are going on.
yeah. I mean, that's just as bad as doing it, if you ask me. But I wrote letters. The way I got out of the mental hospital, bro, that's a miracle in itself. In the United States, on that insanity defense, you go to this hospital. Average felony one patient is in that hospital for 3.5 to 5 years, okay, on average, before you get out. This is after you do a year in trial. And I was in the day room, and I had this transgender roommate that was absolutely schizophrenic, and I would always console her and everything. And I had this old man. They were just ping-ponging one day, crazy screaming. This was going on for about 4 weeks, like about a full month, and I lost it. And because I'm totally sane at this point. I'm like you and me right here talking.
Yeah.
And this is going around me, and this nurse looks at me, and I'm shaming everybody in the room, like, you should be ashamed of yourself for acting like this. And I lost my cool. She was going to drug me. And she said, she's Mr. Durkin, if you don't like what you see, why don't you write a letter about it? Boom, the spirit went off. And I wrote a 4-page letter in 5 minutes about all the atrocities I saw. I saw a girl almost get killed outside. She had 3 staples in her head. Guy from my home city in San Antonio at the hospital up there. Guy from my city I'm in now. He was this big black dude, and he almost killed this girl outside in front of everyone. And he put 3 staples in her head, and he was kicking her in the face. She was in a wheelchair for like a week. And patient-on-patient crimes not prosecuted by the police. He got away with that. They dismissed the original sex charge he was there. He's walking free. He was walking free in my city before I got home for stealing the burger. Yeah, that's the American mental hospital system. Texas ranks 48th in the nation. God put me there to change that too. And I wrote this letter, and they had a secret meeting about this letter I sent to administration. And they said, they called me into a different unit where it wasn't so crazy. And they said, why do you think you're here, Mr. Durkin? And I said, XYZ, whatever I thought it was. And they go, you're being released. You're not mentally ill. They gave me a paper in writing. I have no Axis 1 diagnosis, no bipolar or anything. They took me off all the medication months before because I told them, I said, there's nothing wrong with me. And I was like the only person to ever go through there saying, God put me there for a purpose. And my letters got me out, but I sent them to watchdog groups. I wrote 12 letters in total. And they're using my letters and testimony in the next state capital of Austin to change things in the system. You know, so God uses us. Not only am I a drug addict trying to help other drug addicts, but I became an activist who fought for people without a voice. And I think as addicts who are going to pull people out of the flames, find other purposes to do the Lord's work, not just one aspect. Make the world a better place everywhere you go. Live in Jesus' path. And if you model yourself after Jesus or your higher power, whatever you believe in.
Whatever you want to, yeah.
If it's of God and if it's of goodness and love, because all religions, for the most part, are based on love. And if you walk in the path of that, you walk in the path of love is what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, because that's something that, you know, when we talk about working, 12-step programs, and I got friends, you know what I mean, who are, I got one friend, and, he's always been kind of not big into organized religion. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think he had some bad experiences, and I know my friend Christine did too, because they were gay, right? And they got persecuted for that. But ultimately, he was like, what's a better higher power than love? What's a better path than love and trying to help others and be of service to others? And I think that's...
What did I tell you earlier? I told you the epiphany I had. So no matter, let's take religion out of it. I was a Catholic my whole life and believed but didn't. And on this spiritual journey, things were revealed to me by my God. And I didn't understand it was Jesus at the time. Just things were being revealed to me. And it was just, I knew them as real. And what I said earlier in this interview, God is love. No matter which one you believe in, I don't care. That spirit is what showed me. And God is love. Love is life. And that's all it is. When you walk in the path of love, walk all the way in it, and your life will completely change. Jail and the spiritual awakening I had did for me what 9 rehab centers didn't do. And the difference, if I tell any drug addict this, I was somebody who could not put 3 days together on alcohol. Okay, I could not stop. I was the worst alcoholic possible. But by the time I was 30, I was 360 pounds. I had liver failure, kidney failure. This is before my divorce, before I got into drugs. And I had a high blood pressure into the 200s if I didn't take medication.
And
I
you
could
had
not
been,
stop.
sorry, and you had been to, at this time, you've been to a rehab center and all that in your alcoholism?
9 times.
9 times.
9 times. And it never took. And I had, every time I would quit, right, I'd go to treatment and I'd leave. I would quit 1,000,000 times. I'd quit every 3 days. And the thing that would happen to me is I always had fantasies in early recovery. Fantasies of drinking and drugging. I would have reservations about doing it in the future, and I would have dreams about it at night. I was an alcoholic drug addict from the time I was 14, and I stopped 2 years ago. I was 30. I'm 36 when I stopped because I got locked up.
Yeah.
Even older than that because I just got out and it was a year and a half. So for most of my adult life, all of my adult life, I've been an addict, alcoholic, really severe, the worst case. And I could not stop, and I always thought about it every day. It was a struggle. The big difference is when I let God and the light of the Lord in love, whatever you believe in, it's the light of the Lord or a higher power. It's the spirit that shines through. So take organized religion completely out. I learned about Jesus Christ through the spirit that flowed when I would get sick and I would have epiphanies and things like that. I don't recommend anybody use meth to get that experience.
No.
I'm not saying that's what happened to me.
Just listen to the message you're talking about.
Yes. And it's God showed me these things so that I could help addicts all over the world get pulled out of addiction. Let's stop letting, this is the spirit talking right now. Let's stop letting organized religion and the fear of those from getting us clean. Walk in the light of the Lord in love. Start there. Take the Lord word out of it. Walk in love for the people who really are scared. Eventually, as scary as it may seem to some people, when you walk in love long enough and you walk your whole life in the path, your sexual identity, your sexual conduct, your way you work, the way that you take care of your family, the way that you live your life and treat others around you, you walk in the path of pure love every day, your life will change 100%. That's what got rid of, when I found God and love, all the fantasy stopped this time around. All the reservations stopped of drinking. I was just done. And I had no more dreams, which you don't even control. It was letting love come in my heart and accepting the love of my God that changed it all for me. I was a hopeless alcoholic drug addict, the very worst kind of IV drug using sex addict, porn addict, disgusting human being. I changed my life 1,000%. And now I'm a model person who helps others in my own way. I don't have a lot of money right now. I'm just getting out.
But like you said, you're being an activist. You're exposing the things in the system that need to change, and there's things in certain churches or groups that are not at all in the spirit of love or the spirit of the Lord or you know what I mean?
How do you think the program AA? We just talked about this today. I live in Oxford House, and my brother Brandon is here with me. I met him 4 days ago. Spiritual, supernatural things happen when you meet certain people, and we were talking about Alcoholics Anonymous in the book, the big book.
Yeah.
When Bill W. and his buddy wrote that book, they even acknowledged this. The Holy Spirit wrote that book, or the Spirit, whatever you want to call it, but they didn't write that book. That book was like I'm writing my book. I've never written a day in my entire life, just for the record. So everybody knows I went to the 10th grade. I can barely spell, okay? And, I've got autocorrect on the computer like everybody else, but the wordplay that I write, from what people tell me, is that I'm a talented author.
It's really compelling, man. It's really compelling.
Like that's what you told me. That's your opinion, right? So yeah. Do I sound like I might be writing my whole life, honestly?
Yeah, it sounds like this is something you've practiced. You know what I mean? Just the way it's very vivid, compelling writing.
No training, no writing classes. I went to 9th grade English. It's my last class that I took. That was 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago. And I've never been trained, and I never practiced one day. I picked up the phone, and I wrote those pieces in 30 minutes each. That's the true fact. I'll take a polygraph test on any of this. And it's the spirit of love flowing through me, and it's for purpose to change the world. That's why when people say I dream big about this book and this movie, it's not that I'm dreaming big. I put that out on the internet I posted it all over the place, and thousands of people read my work, and they all loved it. I've gotten one bad comment. You know that? Just one. And the guy goes, "It's trash." And I said, "It is trash what happened to me." And my actions were trash. The writing's not trash. He just didn't like what he was seeing because it was uncomfortable.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Now, I mean, then we can talk about that with as far as like some people get they get uptight about war stories, but I think like in certain situations, like the war stories tell people like this is what you don't. Here's a warning to you. This is what you don't want. This is the real stuff that's going on. This is the stuff we need to change, and this is why you need to dedicate your life to good and to love and to helping yourself and helping other people in the spirit of that.
There's two purposes for why I show the bloody truth of addiction. Number one is this book and this movie isn't geared towards people in their 30s or late 20s. In reality, the Lord has this book and this movie coming out so that 14-year-old boys and girls can read and see it for what it really is. And my book starts off, anybody who tells you drugs and alcohol aren't fun are liars.
Yeah.
Because they start off fun. Let's just put it on the table. People might hate me for this, and the only person I care about opinion is God anyway. So I just speak with the Spirit. The Spirit wants us to know this. Drugs and alcohol, they're the funnest thing on planet Earth when you're 14 years old. When you start drinking, you start smoking weed, start dabbling in cocaine, things like that, whatever it is you like. When you start off and you're going to concerts, you're at house parties with your little friends, you never have a better time than that. That's where the devil sucks you in. That's when the tulip opens up and swallows you.
I mean, okay. Yeah, and you got to be honest, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense. Nobody becomes a drug addict or an alcoholic because it wasn't fun and it didn't feel good. That doesn't make sense. Right?
It doesn't start off on needles and pins and needles, that story. It doesn't start there. But that tulip later becomes a Venus flytrap. And then when you're trapped, it's too late. So the main goal that the Lord is making this book through me is a vessel. Jesus Christ is writing this book for one reason. He wants children to stop using drugs. This is about prevention. When I make the movie, I'm going to make them make it. I won't sell the rights to the movie unless they make it here in Corpus Christi, Texas, where it happened. I want it to be very authentic about the experience so the book matches the movie. And I want the actors, I'm going to write it in the contract. I want to play a part in the casting because I want the actors to put real hypodermic needles in their veins and close-up shots. And I want to show the blood, guts, and murder of addiction and for what it really looks like. And I want to create such a powerful message to teenagers that it's drug prevention. And for anybody who's in the grips of addiction, it'll put the mirror up and say, this is happening and it's okay. And somebody else made it through to the other side, walking in the spirit of love, changed their life. And I can too survive this. That's all this is about. It's about saving lives and preventing people from walking down into the depths of hell.
So they don't so they don't have to go through what you went through to have a better life, man. And I think that's the very powerful message what you're doing. So I just want to end it off. This is a good question that my girlfriend came up with. So today, like, who do you think is the hardest person that you have to make amends to now?
It's funny, like my mom she was the reason why I drank for years. My whole damn drinking career and drugs was because I didn't think she loved me. And when I got locked up, she was the only person there.
Wow.
Simple. And my relationship, I just talked to her like an hour ago. Never been better. She's not even critical of me anymore. The spirit of love walked with me, and now it walks with everyone around me. And when you walk with the spirit of love, all those bridges will be mended. My brother doesn't talk to me. I'm not going to get into why, but it was because I told some secrets on him. It had nothing to do with my addiction. I stole from him in the past and stuff, but that's not it. My brother loves me. It's more of an envious demon that got into that relationship. But dude, to be honest with you, the biggest one that got me was my dad dying when I was a junkie. This is a cool story. I'm just going to end with. I got baptized yesterday in this church. Okay.
Yeah.
And my dad passed away a couple of years ago, and right when I got arrested that same day I found out. And I'm walking from baptism class, and we got like an hour to kill, and I go in to get some coffee. I posted this story. You can't write this stuff. Brandon was there. The coffee people, staff, we spoke about it. I would take a poly on this. we walk in, and I hear this song, and I don't pay no mind for it, but I hear this keyboard solo. My dad's favorite song in the whole world was Riviera Paradise. It's a Stevie Ray Vaughan song, and it's an instrumental, just obscure B-side cut from his last album. I've never heard it anywhere else on planet Earth unless he played it. And it was this kid. I say, "Is that Riviera Paradise by Stevie Ray Vaughan?" He goes, "Yeah, why?" And I said, "That was my dad's favorite song," and he was dead. And then he goes, "It was on the radio. It was on the radio station." He goes, "I never played this." So it was in rotation. What are the odds of that? That was my dad with the Lord shining through.
I've never heard that song on the radio. Of all the Stevie Ray Vaughan songs, you never hear that one.
It would be the last one they would play on the radio. Go ahead and listen to it. Everybody who watches, it's called Riviera Paradise, and Reese Wyans plays keyboards. It's a beautiful song, and play the cut on YouTube for Boston City Limits. And in the beginning of that song, my dad loved this part, and this is for all of us addicts. He was just in recovery, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And at the beginning of the song, he goes, "This one goes out to all the people out there still suffering in any way." And my dad played that to shine through. And then later on, I had a prophetic word when I got baptized. And the guy goes, "The Lord is so proud of what you're doing. God is real." It's the purpose of the book is to show the world God's true existence and to show drug addicts everywhere that no matter how bad you are, you can recover and stay clean under any circumstance, even homelessness, as I did when I came out of incarceration after my cousin stole $11,000. I was set up, and I came out and hit the streets, and God blessed me, and now I have a place to live in recovery. God is real, and if you feel bad about yourself and ashamed about what you did, just come to love and just put it all on the table so you have no more shame. And there's people out here. Anyone that's watching can contact me on my Facebook or on my page, whatever.
100%. I mean, that's how I got a hold of you. I said, man, I want to talk to this guy. I want to hear more about his story and help put his story out there.
I'm accessible to people. Anyone who sees this that wants to talk to me and help change their life. I will not preach God to you at all. I will never quote scripture to you. I will never do anything. That's where I'm at in my journey, but I know where you're at, and the Lord sent me to help you. So I won't even talk about God so much, but we'll talk about love. We'll talk about forgiveness. We'll talk about recovery into the road home into your life. And we'll bring you back to your children. We'll see prostitutes that become sacred again. We'll see women who respect their bodies, because the meth game destroys women. It's easy for women to get drugs and to fall into getting free drugs. And it's just disgusting what the lifestyle does to all these
people. There's some
people.
pretty horrific stuff, yeah. I mean, and you talk about that.
Bring yourself back to love, and I'll help you get there if you can't talk to anybody else. Because whatever you've done, I've done tenfold, and I will never judge you. So I want to thank you so much. The light of the Lord be with you all day, every day. Thank you so much. God Squad in the house.
Yeah, man. All right, and let's plug all of your channels where people can get at you if they know anybody who's got publishing contacts or anything. So do you want to plug your channels?
Anybody who sees this, get me on Boston Durkin, Durkin, Boston like the city, Boston Durkin on Facebook. Friend me there. And then you can go to my page, Boston's Recovery Worldwide. That's my page. If you friend me, I'll send you a request right away anyway. And then if anybody knows any publishers, my writing samples are on the Boston's Recovery Worldwide page.
Yeah.
Send those to them. Share them. Copy and paste, whatever. Just make sure that you plug me. And I need somebody to sign me. My main goal right now is for the Lord to provide me so that I can get a deal to write this book full time. I'm about to go back to work. I'm writing this book. I'm going to have to go stock shelves somewhere or do something to pay my rent.
Yeah.
But I'm praying that the right people see my story. And the story is going to go worldwide in that Christian magazine in August 2020. But I want to write this story full time. So if anybody can help me, it'll be the biggest blessing to recovery. I guarantee you this book's going to be really big in bringing drug addicts on the
100%, dude. All right. Thanks again, Boston, for coming on. We'll definitely put up all the links to all of your websites and do what we can to put you out there, man. I appreciate it again for taking time,
I'll come back on your podcast. I'll just say it here. I don't care what happens with the book, no matter what. I'll come back and do this anytime you want, ever in the future. You just call on me and I'm here.
Awesome. I appreciate that, bro. Thanks again for coming on.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you too, brother.
Working with you all day, every day. Jesus Christ, all day, every day.
100%, man. All right, take care, brother.
You too, brother. Thank you.